The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The walls reached up so high that Jake Morrison could barely see the top. Lights from fake stars hung from the ceiling and made long shadows on the crystal floor. Representatives from 47 different alien species sat in rows that went on forever. Jake stood at a small platform in the center of it all. His hands were behind his back and his uniform was clean but wrinkled from the long trip here. He had been the captain of 3 different ships in his career. He had fought pirates and saved colonies. He had made trade deals that helped both humans and aliens. Now he was here to answer for crimes he did not think were crimes at all. Behind him sat Lisa Grant. She was the human ambassador to the council. She had worked for 5 years to get humans accepted into this group. She had learned 17 different languages. She had attended boring meetings about trade routes and mining rights. She had smiled and nodded when aliens told her that humans were too young and too violent to join the galactic community. She had kept trying anyway. Now all that work was falling apart. High Arbiter Veltar stood at the judge's bench. She was from a species that looked like giant squids with too many arms. Her skin was purple and wet-looking. When she talked, her arms moved around like angry snakes. She did not like humans. She had made that clear from the first day Lisa arrived at the council. The charges were read out loud in many different languages. Jake heard the human translation through his earpiece. The words made him angry, but he kept his face calm. Humans were accused of being too aggressive. They were accused of expanding into space without permission. They were accused of fighting when they should have run away. The evidence was simple. Human colonies had spread to 12 star systems in 5 years. The council said humans should have asked permission first. Jake thought that was stupid. The systems were empty. No one was using them. Humans found them and built homes there. They had not hurt anyone. The council also said humans were too violent. They pointed to what happened with Commander Ryan Kelly 6 months ago. Ryan was leading a supply run to the colony on Kepler 442b when Zephyrian pirates attacked his convoy. The pirates demanded that Ryan surrender his ships and cargo. They said it was the price for safe passage through their territory. Ryan refused. He said the space belonged to everyone and no one had the right to steal from honest traders. The pirates attacked. Ryan fought back. His 3 ships destroyed 5 pirate vessels and captured 2 more. The cargo was delivered safely to the colony. The captured pirates were turned over to council authorities. The council called it an act of barbaric aggression. Jake thought it was called defending yourself. The worst part was watching the other species vote. The Altarians had been trading partners with humans for 3 years. Human ships protected their merchant vessels from pirates. Human colonies bought Altarian goods and paid fair prices. When the vote came, the Altarians voted to exile humans without even looking at Lisa. The Proximan Federation was even worse. 2 years ago, a solar flare destroyed the atmosphere processors on their main colony world. 20,000 Proximans would have died if human rescue ships had not arrived in time. Jake himself had led that mission. He had worked for 18 hours straight, pulling survivors from the failing life support systems. Now the Proximans voted to kick humans out of the galaxy. Species after species cast their votes. 47 different civilizations all agreed on one thing. Humans were too dangerous to be allowed in council space. Veltar raised her voice so the whole hall could hear. Her translator made her words sound cold and final. The species known as humanity stands guilty of excessive aggression and unauthorized expansion. By unanimous vote of this council, humanity is hereby exiled from all council territory. She paused to let the words sink in. Jake felt Lisa stiffen behind him. 5 years of work destroyed in 5 minutes. All human presence must be removed from council space within 30 standard rotations. Any human vessel found in our territory after this deadline will be destroyed without warning. This sentence is final and cannot be appealed. The sound of the gavel hitting the bench echoed through the huge hall like thunder. Jake had stayed quiet through the whole trial. He had listened to the charges and the evidence and the votes. He had watched aliens he thought were friends turn their backs on his species. Now he finally spoke. "You are making a mistake." His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the hall. The translator systems picked it up and repeated it in dozens of languages. Every alien in the room heard it. "We came here offering partnership. We offered to share our technology and our knowledge. We offered to protect your trade routes and help your colonies. We offered to fight beside you against pirates and raiders. You chose to see us as enemies instead of allies. Veltar's arms writhed with anger. Your species understands only violence and conquest. Perhaps exile will teach you the value of peace. Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. Perhaps exile will teach us something else entirely. He turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence of the hall. Behind them, 47 species watched the humans leave. Most of them felt satisfied that they had removed a dangerous element from their perfect peaceful galaxy. They had no idea what they had just done. As Jake and Lisa reached the doors, Jake stopped and looked back one more time. The aliens were already talking among themselves about other business. The human problem was solved as far as they were concerned. Humans would go back to their little solar system and stay there like good children. Jake had spent 30 years in space. He had seen humans do impossible things when they were backed into a corner. He had watched human engineers solve problems that alien scientists said could not be solved. He had seen human soldiers fight against odds that should have killed them and win anyway. The Council thought they were punishing humanity by forcing them to stay in one-star system. Jake knew better. They were giving humanity the greatest gift possible. They were giving them a reason to prove that humans were everything the aliens feared and more. The doors closed behind the two humans with a soft whisper. In 30 rotations, every human would be gone from Council space. The galaxy would be peaceful again, at least for a while. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon and watched the last transport leave Kepler 442b. The ship was so small, it looked like a dot against the massive planet below. Behind it, explosions lit up the mining station that humans had built in orbit. The charges had been set to destroy everything, so the Council could not use human technology. Kate had been in space for 20 years. She had seen colonies built from nothing but determination and hard work. She had watched humans turn dead rocks into thriving worlds. Now she was watching it all get blown up because the aliens were afraid of progress. "That is the last transport, Admiral," said Chris Martinez from his station. He was the navigation officer and had been with Kate for 8 years. His voice sounded tired and angry. "All personnel are safe. We can start the journey home." Kate nodded but kept looking at the display screen. Red dots showed where human colonies used to be. Research stations, mining platforms, and military outposts. All abandoned now. All destroyed so the Council could not steal what humans had built. Blue dots showed the convoy heading back to Earth. 237 ships carrying 12 million people who had been forced to leave their homes. But Kate saw something else in those blue dots. The evacuation had not been random or rushed. Every piece of technology had been saved. Every computer file had been copied. Every lesson learned in 5 years of building among the stars was coming home with them. The colonies were gone, but the knowledge was safe. "Admiral, this is Dr. Ben Parker on the Discovery." The research ship was leading a group of vessels full of scientists and engineers. "I have been studying the data from our expansion. We mapped 37 star systems with good planets beyond Council space. The Andromeda sector has no Council ships at all." Kate smiled for the first time in weeks. Ben was the smartest human she knew. If he said there were worlds out there, then there were worlds out there. Better worlds than the ones they had just lost. Captain Nicole Adams joined the conversation from her military ship. "My combat teams have been analyzing Council battle tactics. They are weak, Admiral. They rely on fear and reputation instead of real fighting power. Their ships are old and their crews are not trained for real combat." "Good to know, Nicole," Kate replied. She had been thinking the same thing during the trial. The Council talked tough, but their military was a joke. They had not fought a real war in over 100 years. They solved problems by making rules and sending strongly worded messages. They would not know what to do against humans who actually fought back. The convoy entered the Sol system 3 weeks later. Kate looked at her home star and felt something she had not expected: relief. The Council thought they were punishing humans by trapping them in one system. They did not understand that humans were never stronger than when they were cornered. Earth looked the same as always. Blue and white and beautiful, but Kate could see the changes already starting. Construction platforms floated in orbit around Mars. Asteroid mining ships moved through the belt harvesting resources. The moons of Jupiter glowed with the lights of new factories and research stations. Humanity had 30 rotations to get out of Council space. It had taken them 15. They had used the extra time to start building something new. Kate opened a channel to every ship in the convoy. 12 million people listened as she spoke. This is Admiral Sullivan. We are home. But we are not the same people who left Earth 5 years ago. We have seen what is possible out there among the stars. We have built colonies and research stations and mining platforms. We have made friends with alien species and fought off pirates and raiders. We have proven that humans belong in space. She paused and looked at the blue planet below. The Council thinks they have taught us a lesson about staying in our place. They think they have shown us that we are too young and too violent to join their peaceful galaxy. They are wrong. The convoy was spreading out now. Military ships headed for orbital defense platforms. Colony ships went to Mars and the outer planets. Research vessels docked with the science stations orbiting Jupiter. Everyone had a job to do. Everyone knew what was coming next. The Council wanted us contained to one system, Kate continued. They gave us something better than punishment. They gave us unity. For the first time in human history, every nation and every corporation and every person on Earth has the same goal. We are going to show the galaxy what humans can do when we work together. She switched to a private channel and spoke to the ship commanders. Lisa Grant is meeting with the Earth government tomorrow. Jake Morrison is taking command of the new shipyard project. Ben Parker has a list of targets for our next expansion. Nicole Adams is training volunteers for the new military units. Kate pulled up a star chart on her personal display. Beyond Council space lay thousands of systems that no one had claimed. Worlds with resources and room for colonies. Space that belonged to whoever was strong enough to take it and smart enough to keep it. The Council has 47 member species, she said to her commanders. They have been in charge of this galaxy for 300 years. They think they own the stars. They are about to learn that the stars do not belong to anyone. The stars belong to whoever reaches them first. The convoy was almost fully dispersed now. Ships disappeared into the darkness, heading for planets and moons throughout the system. In a few hours, the evacuation would be complete. The exile would be official. Then the real work would begin. Kate looked one more time at the star chart. Somewhere out there past Council space was humanity's real future, not as junior members of some alien club, but as the founders of something new, something better, something that would make the Galactic Council look like the weak and frightened organization it really was. 30 rotations, she said quietly to herself. The Council thinks that is a punishment. They have no idea what humans can accomplish in 30 rotations when we put our minds to it. The New Horizon headed toward Earth dock, carrying its cargo of refugees from the stars. But Kate knew they would not be refugees for long. They would be explorers again. They would be builders again. They would be conquerors. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Sam Rodriguez stood at the window of the orbital shipyard and watched the biggest thing humans had ever built take shape in the darkness of space. The ship was 3 times larger than anything in the old human fleet. Its hull was made from metal that could stop Council weapons and engines that could outrun anything the aliens had. 2 years had passed since the exile. 2 years of the hardest work in human history. Sam was the director of the Sol Defense Project, and he had not slept more than 4 hours a night since coming home. Neither had anyone else. The entire human race was working toward one goal. The Defiance-class ships are ahead of schedule, said Amy Foster. She was the chief engineer and carried a tablet that showed construction progress on 17 different shipyards. We will have 12 heavy cruisers and 36 destroyers ready in 6 months. The new engines are working better than we hoped, Sam smiled. The exile had done something that no human government had ever managed. It had united every person on Earth completely. Every factory was building ship parts. Every mine was digging up materials. Every scientist was working on new weapons or better engines or stronger armor. There were no more arguments about budgets or politics or national borders. There was only the goal. Mars had been turned into one giant factory. The red planet now glowed with the lights of foundries and assembly plants. Robots worked around the clock building hull sections and weapon systems. The asteroid belt was full of mining ships stripping every rock for metal and rare elements. Jupiter's moons housed research facilities where the smartest humans alive were solving problems that had seemed impossible just 2 years ago. Dr. Elena Wright joined them at the window. She ran the Human Enhancement Program and had been working on making soldiers stronger and faster and smarter. The biological upgrades are ready for testing. Our troops will be superior to anything the Council has. They will be faster, stronger, and more durable than any alien species we have encountered. What about the psychological conditioning? Sam asked. Perfect. Elena replied with excitement in her voice. "Complete loyalty and no fear in combat. Our soldiers will follow orders without question and fight to the death without hesitation. The aliens have never seen anything like what we are creating." Sam nodded. The council had called humans too aggressive. They were about to find out what real aggression looked like. But the military upgrades were just part of the plan. The real advantage would come from technology. "The AI systems are beyond our best projections," Elena continued. "The quantum computers can outthink council systems by huge margins. Our ships will react faster, coordinate better, and make decisions quicker than entire alien fleets." Captain Tony Blake walked up to join the conversation. He had been promoted to run special operations and was in charge of gathering intelligence on council weaknesses. "The scouting missions are going well. We have identified 43 star systems with valuable resources and no council presence. Even better, we have made contact with species that hate the council." Sam was interested. "Tell me more about these potential allies." Tony activated his tablet and showed a star map. The Vakari were kicked out of the council 50 years ago for refusing to pay taxes. The Helixians were conquered by the council and forced to give up their independence. The Zephyrian pirates that attacked our convoy are actually rebels fighting against council oppression. There are dozens of species that would join us if we offered them a chance to fight back. This was even better than Sam had hoped. The council presented itself as a peaceful organization that brought order to the galaxy. The truth was that they were bullies who used fear and economic pressure to control everyone else. Any species that refused to obey was crushed or exiled. Any group that fought back was labeled as pirates or terrorists. "How long before we are ready for the first phase?" Sam asked. Tony checked his tactical display. 8 months for full deployment. We start with the outer systems and build supply bases and forward command posts. By the time the council figures out what we are doing, we will be too strong for them to stop. Elena added more good news. "The beauty of the plan is that we are not technically violating the exile. We are expanding beyond council space into regions they have never claimed. According to their own laws, we have every right to be there." Sam's smile got wider. "And when they try to stop us anyway? Then we show them what happens when you back humans into a corner," Tony said with a grim expression. The three of them looked out at the shipyard again. Dozens of vessels were under construction. Each one was packed with weapons and technology that the council had never seen. The hulls were made from alloys that could absorb energy weapons. The engines used fusion cores that produced twice the power of anything the aliens had. The computers could process information and make decisions faster than biological brains. But the ships were just the beginning. Hidden in asteroid bases throughout the solar system were weapons that could destroy entire fleets, orbital platforms that could project shields around whole planets, manufacturing centers that could build 1,000 ships in the time it took the council to build one. "The council thinks they taught us humility," Sam said quietly. "They think they showed us our place in the galaxy. They have no idea what they actually did." Amy looked up from her tablet. "What did they do?" "They gave us time," Sam replied. "Time to plan and prepare and build. Time to unite our species completely. Time to develop technology that makes their weapons look like toys. Most importantly, they gave us motivation." He turned away from the window and looked at his team. "Every human in this system is working toward the same goal. Not just military victory, but proving that we deserve our place among the stars. The council said we were too young and too violent to join their peaceful galaxy. We are going to show them that their galaxy was never peaceful. It was just weak." Tony nodded in agreement. "When we return to council space, we will not be the same species they exiled. We will be something they have never encountered before. Humans who are not asking for permission or begging for acceptance. Humans who take what they want and keep what they take." The meeting broke up and everyone went back to work. There were still 6 months of preparation left. 6 months of building ships and training soldiers and developing new weapons. 6 months before humanity would return to the stars not as refugees or exiles but as conquerors. The council had wanted to contain humanity to one system. Instead, they had created a pressure cooker that was about to explode across the galaxy. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship as 200 human ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Proximate territory. 5 years had passed since the exile, and now humanity was returning to the stars. But they were not the same species that had been forced to leave. They were something new and dangerous and unstoppable. "All ships report ready status, Admiral," announced Commander Greg Johnson from his station. The bridge crew moved with perfect precision. Every person had trained for years for this moment. Proximan Defense Fleet is moving to intercept. 12 vessels using old Council designs. Kate looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were pathetic compared to what humanity now fielded. Their weapons were outdated and their shields were weak. Their crews had no real combat experience. They had spent decades doing nothing but patrol duty in a peaceful galaxy. Open a channel to the flagship, Kate ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead Proximan vessel. Captain Zekimar appeared on screen. Kate remembered him from the old days when humans and Proximans had been trading partners. His people had made good profit selling rare minerals to human colonies. Human ships had protected Proximan merchant vessels from pirates and raiders. Then the Proximans had voted to exile humanity without even looking at Ambassador Lisa Grant. Admiral Sullivan, Zekimar began. His translator turned his clicking sounds into nervous English. You are violating Council space. You must withdraw immediately or face consequences. Kate kept her expression calm but determined. Captain, your people once traded freely with humanity. You prospered under our protection. How have things been since the Council took over completely? The alien captain's insect-like face twitched. Kate could see the answer in his old ships and the poor condition of the planet below. The Council's protection came with heavy taxes and strict rules about technology. Worlds that had grown rich under human partnership now struggled under Council bureaucracy. That is not relevant, Zekimar replied, but his voice lacked conviction. The Council's authority must be respected. The Council's authority ends where their ability to enforce it begins, Kate interrupted. Surrender now and your people can choose their own path. We offer the same partnership we offered before. Protection trade and respect for your independence. Zekimar's mandibles clicked rapidly. Kate could see him thinking. His people remembered the prosperity they had enjoyed during the human partnership. They remembered feeling safe when human warships patrolled their space. They remembered having enough food and medicine and technology to build a better life. But fear of the Council was stronger than memory of better times. I have my orders, Zekimar said finally. All ships attack pattern Delta. The Proximan fleet opened fire first. Their energy weapons hit the human ships and did absolutely nothing. The new hull armor absorbed the blasts like they were flashlights shining on a mirror. Shields that could stop planet-killing weapons barely flickered under the alien assault. The human response was swift and devastating. Advanced weapons powered by fusion cores and guided by quantum targeting systems tore through Council-era defenses like they were made of paper. The alien ships had no chance at all. Within 3 minutes, 8 Proximan vessels were floating dead in space with their crews safely transported to human ships before the hulls were destroyed. Captain Zekimar stared at his tactical display in shock. Impossible, he whispered. Council intelligence said humans were contained and weakened by the exile. Council intelligence was wrong about many things, Kate replied. We are transmitting our terms to your planetary government. Full independence under human protection. Free trade agreements, technology sharing, medical aid, educational exchanges. Consider the offer carefully. She cut the transmission and opened a secure channel to Earth. Control, this is Sullivan. Operation Homecoming is proceeding exactly as planned. First system secured with minimal casualties. No human losses. Beginning Phase 2 deployment. The response came immediately from Admiral Morrison, who was now running fleet operations from Solsi, acknowledged Kate. Fleets 7 through 12 are moving to their assigned targets. The Council is about to discover what happens when you give humanity 5 years to prepare for war. Kate smiled as her ships moved into orbit around the 3 Proximan worlds. The planets were beautiful with blue oceans and green continents. The cities glowed with lights that showed millions of people living and working below. Soon those people would have a choice: join the new human-led alliance or remain under Council oppression. She knew which option most of them would choose. Admiral called Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station. We are receiving surrender transmissions from 17 Proximan cities. They are requesting immediate protection from Council retaliation. Granted, Kate replied. Deploy Marine units to all major population centers. Full protection protocols. Make sure the locals understand that we are here as liberators, not conquerors. The next few hours were busy but routine. Human Marines landed on the planets and were welcomed by cheering crowds. Proximan leaders who had been forced to vote for human exile now lined up to sign new partnership agreements. Within 1 day, the entire system had switched sides. Captain Zekmar was brought aboard Kate's flagship under guard, but treated with respect. He looked around the human bridge with amazement. The technology was decades ahead of anything the Council had. The crew was professional and disciplined in ways that Council forces could never match. "How did you do this?" he asked quietly. 5 years ago you were refugees fleeing Council space. Now you have weapons and ships that make our fleets look like children's toys. Kate turned to look at him. "The Council made a mistake, Captain. They thought exile would weaken us through isolation. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible. They united humanity completely and gave us time to prepare." She gestured at the tactical display showing human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. "Every human in the Sol system spent 5 years working toward this moment. We built weapons that can destroy planets. We created soldiers that can fight for days without rest. We developed computers that can outthink entire Council fleets." Zekimar's compound eyes focused on the display. Dozens of star systems were already under attack by human forces. The carefully maintained peace of the Galactic Council was collapsing in real time. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Partnership," Kate replied simply. "The same thing we offered 5 years ago. The same thing the Council was too afraid to accept. We protect you from pirates and raiders. We share technology and medical knowledge. We trade fairly and respect your independence. In return, you provide resources and support for our operations." It was a simple deal, much simpler than the complex bureaucracy and endless regulations of Council membership. Zekmar nodded slowly. "And if we refuse?" Kate's expression hardened. "Then you can explain to your people why you chose Council oppression over human partnership. I think you know what they will say. The communication from Earth was updated every hour, more systems falling to human forces, more species abandoning the Council, more worlds choosing freedom over bureaucracy. The galaxy was changing and humanity was leading that change." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. High Arbiter Veltar's tentacles thrashed wildly as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Her purple skin had turned darker with stress and fear. In 6 months, humanity had destroyed everything the Council had built over 300 years. "How is this possible?" demanded Representative Morden of the Altarian Collective. His crystal body flickered with distress as he spoke. "Our intelligence said humanity was trapped in their home system. They were supposed to be weakened and isolated." Admiral Kyle Thompson stood at the same platform where Captain Jake Morrison had been sentenced 7 years earlier. But the chamber looked very different now. Half the species that had voted for human exile were missing. Their territories were now under human protection. The remaining aliens sat in frightened silence, knowing their fleets had been shattered and their worlds were surrounded. "Your intelligence failed to understand humanity's greatest strength," Thompson said calmly. "We turn every setback into an advantage. You gave us a common enemy, unlimited time to prepare, and the motivation to exceed every limit you thought you knew about our species." Behind him sat representatives from 43 species that had joined the Terran Federation in just 6 months. The Proximans sat proudly in the front row. Their homeworld was now the most prosperous it had been in 50 years. The Keplerians had signed up after seeing what human protection meant. Their pirate problems had disappeared overnight. The Vegan Confederacy had joined when they realized human medical technology could cure diseases that had plagued them for generations. High Arbiter Veltar raised herself to her full height. She was still trying to act like she had authority even though everyone knew the Council was finished. "The Council demands immediate withdrawal of human forces from all occupied territories and unconditional surrender of the Terran Federation." Thompson's smile was confident, but not cruel. "And in return for this surrender, you offer what exactly?" "Another exile, another attempt to contain us. Those days are over, High Arbiter." He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed the current state of the galaxy in real time. Blue markers indicated Terran Federation territory, which now covered almost half of what had been Council space. Red markers showed the few remaining Council strongholds. They were isolated and surrounded. Green markers showed neutral systems that were signing trade agreements with the Federation every day. "The Council had its chance to work with humanity as equals," Thompson continued. "You chose to treat us as a threat to be eliminated. Now we are the dominant power in this galaxy, and we offer you the same choice you once offered us. Adapt or be replaced." Dr. Marie Collins stepped forward. She was the Federation's chief science officer and had developed many of the technologies that made human victory possible. "We are not here to destroy the Council, but to replace it with something better. Under the new galactic order, all species will have equal representation. No more taxation without consultation. No more forced compliance with arbitrary regulations. No more punishment for defending yourselves against pirates and criminals. The chamber erupted in heated discussion. Some council members argued for continued resistance. Others wanted to negotiate. A few species were already sending secret messages to Federation representatives offering to switch sides. Representative Carlin of the Arcturus Empire stood up. Her people had been neutral during the human exile but had watched the Federation's rise with interest. What guarantees do we have that humans will not become the same oppressive force the Council became? Thompson nodded respectfully. A fair question, Representative. The answer is simple. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to trade with it. Every species in the Federation maintains complete internal independence. We provide protection and technology sharing. In return, we ask for fair trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. No taxes, no forced compliance. No punishment for cultural differences. He paused and looked around the chamber. The Council ruled through fear and bureaucracy. The Federation succeeds through mutual benefit and respect. Any species can leave at any time if they are not satisfied with the arrangement. Veltar's tentacles writhed with anger. And what of species that refuse to join your Federation? What happens to them? They are free to govern themselves as they see fit. Thompson replied, as long as they do not attack Federation members or engage in piracy and slavery, they will be left alone. We are not interested in forcing anyone to join us. This was a radical concept for the Chamber. The Council had always demanded total compliance. Every species had to follow Council laws and pay Council taxes and accept Council oversight. The idea of voluntary membership was completely foreign to them. However, Thompson continued, his voice becoming harder. We will not tolerate aggression against our members. Any attack on a Federation world will be met with overwhelming force. Any attempt to reimpose Council authority will be crushed completely. We offer peace and partnership, but we are fully prepared for war. The threat was clear and backed up by the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships patrolled every major trade route. Human bases protected strategic systems. Human technology gave the Federation advantages that the Council could never match. Representative Zilhan of the Centauri Republic raised a shaking appendage. What are your terms for Council surrender? Thompson had been waiting for this question. Complete dissolution of the Council as a governing body. All member species granted full independence. All Council military forces disbanded. All Council taxes and regulations eliminated. Former Council territory open to free trade and voluntary alliances. It was the complete destruction of everything the Council represented. 300 years of galactic government would end in a single vote. In return, Thompson continued, all former Council species will be invited to join the Federation as equal partners. No punishment for past actions. No reparations demanded. Full access to Federation technology and protection. Veltar looked around the chamber at the faces of species that had once followed her commands without question. Now they were calculating whether they could afford to refuse the human offer. The answer was obvious to everyone. The Council will consider your terms, she said with obvious reluctance. You have 72 hours, Thompson replied. After that, we will consider any remaining Council territory to be in rebellion against the legitimate government of this galaxy. As Thompson left the platform, the chamber fell completely silent. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of the Terran Federation had begun. Across the galaxy, species that had been oppressed for centuries began to hope for something better. Humanity had been exiled for being too aggressive and too willing to fight. In trying to contain these traits, the Council had created their own destruction. They had given humanity the motivation to prove that sometimes the galaxy needed a species willing to fight for what was right. The stars belonged to those bold enough to claim them. Humanity had proven they were the boldest species of all.